because you do have probation violations. It's a long time too. One of the conditions will be that you are to have no contact with minors. So if you're standing in the store and there's a kid in front of you, or you're on your way to work and you encounter a child, then you have to have a plan of action. So whatever you are going to get at that store either needs to be put back. You remove yourself from that situation so that you're not violated. And then maybe once the child is gone, or then you can go back in. But you have to think of situations just as simple as that. You know what I mean? Where you're in close proximity to children, or, what happens if someone says, oh, wow, that's Mr. Bowman. Did you read about what he did on the internet? How do you handle that?
Well, I'm guessing you already knew what he was in for by just seeing the thumbnail, but yes, he is locked up for just a small little itty bitty sentence of 2 years and 6 months, seeing if he can get released early. We'll unpack it with all the details at
Hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Hunter Bowman, inmate number 443543. He is serving a sentence of 15 years jail, 2.5 years to serve, followed by 13 years of probation for possession of child pornography second. As of today, records reflect the parole eligibility date of May 2nd, 2024. There was no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and shows the offender has completed the following programs: the short track sex offender program and voices. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, this offender's overall score falls within the moderate range of risk for recidivism. If a sex offender, utilizing the static 99R, the offender's overall score for sexual offense recidivism falls within the low moderate range. Mr. Bowman, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you should be granted parole. You may begin.
I would like to be given the chance to get out and begin furthering my treatment. I have experienced success with the DOC mandated programs that they've had me do here, and I would like to get out and be able to continue on that success and do everything possible to get back to life, get back to being a productive member of society, get back to the family and get their support on top of all the others.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Bowman, for that opening statement. Much of what you mentioned in your opening statement is our desires for you. We want to keep the people that we consider bad people inside the prison, but those who can actually learn from their mistakes and avoid these behaviors in the future, yeah, we can gauge, I guess, a little about their change, their level of change, and hope that when they return, that they learn their lesson, and when they go back out in the community, then hopefully they will not commit any more crimes. Your offense is very concerning to me because, one, the length of time that it incurred, that it occurred, not incurred. And the fact that you admit that you have some attraction to the things that you're viewing on the internet. So you've taken a short-term program since you've been in there. Were you able to identify anything that would help you avoid these behaviors in the future?
A lot of what the short course program covered was about self-policing and not allowing fantasies to become realities. And, it also covered just how much the actions I was taking were re-victimizing and creating new victims.
Mhm. Very good insight. That's good. So how do you avoid, so you avoid doing this again in the future by understanding that when you look at this or distribute this kind of thing, you are victimizing another person who didn't, they can't approve or consent to doing this kind of thing because they're not old enough to do that. So when you go out into the community, things are going to be very, very different for you. You understand that?
Yes.
And so your ability to be around children and things of that nature, go to a park, to a mall, to a movie, all that stuff is really going to be different. How do you think you're going to handle that? I hope you don't say I'm just going to stay in the house.
I hope to handle it by leaning on the family, by looking to the family for support and spending most of my time doing things with the family. And
Do you intend to work?
yes, I have work lined up as soon as I leave.
And so what happens if you're going about your day and you come across the child? What are you supposed to do?
Yeah, if I come across a child, I do absolutely nothing.
Well, you
I
can't.
can
So if you're standing, if you know that one of your conditions, because you do have probation to file since this is a long time too. One of the conditions will be that you are to have no contact with minors. So if you're standing in the store and there's a kid in front of you, or you're on your way to work and you encounter a child, then you have to have a plan of action. So whatever you are going to get at that store either needs to be put back. You remove yourself from that situation so that you're not violated. And then maybe once the child is gone, or then you can go back in. But you have to think of situations just as simple as that. You know what I mean? Where you're in close proximity to children, or, what happens if someone says, oh, wow, that's Mr. Bowman. Did you read about what he did on the internet? How do you handle that?
The idea of someone saying that, oh, I saw him on the list. And everybody who is important to me in my life knows exactly where I am, exactly what I did to get here. Mm-hmm. Anybody else that decides that all I am is based off of the fact that I am on the list is not someone who will be important in my life.
But you do realize that there are stigmas associated with people that are considered sex offenders. And people will know, they have every right to know that you're in their neighborhood, and they may treat you some kind of way. And so you have to understand that things they were normally in your life are not going to be the same when you return. So I just want you to be aware of that, because I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I'm trying to tell you that it's going to be difficult. And so it's important that you have a plan in place. Sounds like you have the support. You need to do a little more planning, because different things will occur that you will find yourself, like birthday parties, or, it's so many weddings, you never know. Things that you'll have to turn down because you don't want to be violated, or you have to get permission for. I did see that you were looking into getting your CDL. I do know that this is your only offense. And I did read the PSI where your sister was in support of your not even spending time in prison, because you guys have already suffered a tremendous loss. And I apologize. My condolences for your loss. And she just wants you all to be a family again, which is rare, but I'm glad to see that she's still there and supportive. I also see that you didn't receive any disciplinary infractions. You've taken the appropriate programming. And I also know that you have to appear on the sex offender registry for what, 10 years?
I actually have not been informed of that. No one has told me I have to be on it for life.
I didn't say life. That 10 years.
No, I
You
was
know
saying
how
that.
long? Okay. For 10 years, I believe it. Yeah, I couldn't find it either, but I know that he has to be on there. So are you okay with an officer going through your phone, or you're not being authorized to be on Facebook or Instagram or Chat Now or Me Too or whatever those things are called? What is it, Snapchat? All that stuff, you know?
Yes, I was on pretrial supervision for over 2 years. And for the first year, I wasn't allowed any internet access whatsoever. And for the second year, I was allowed to have a cell phone, but the officer could confiscate it at any time and go through it at any time.
Okay. And do you have any problem with, I heard you talk about continuing treatment, and I'm assuming that you have your own private physician in line or something lined up, but you'll also have to do it in the community until they feel that you've successfully completed the program. So you don't have any problems with that either, right?
No, I welcome any and all treatment.
Okay. All right. Ms. Palmieri?
Thank you. So, Mr. Bowman, the chair touched on the fact that you'll have treatment in the community, and you mentioned having done some in pretrial. And I read that you found that treatment to be very helpful. What were some of your takeaways from that particular treatment?
From the
treatment with Mr.
pre-person-
Hobson.
Mm-hmm.
with Mr. Hobson, that was largely to do with I was still dealing with the older sister's death, and I was just in a tailspin from that, and it that was the contributing factor that pushed me so deep into the addiction that I ended up getting caught. I was just so out of touch with reality anymore. So directly after the search warrant was served, and I started treatment with William Hobbs, it was largely about understanding why I was doing it and who it was harming, and it was mostly for me. It was understanding why I was doing it.
Okay. And do you understand why you're doing it? Do you have because I also read that you were using the pornography to meet your emotional needs. So what I'm getting to is, have you been able to develop what we would call a relapse plan, some aspect of a plan, so that when you find yourself, as you put it, going down a rabbit hole, that you'll be able to stop yourself, have somebody else that you'll be able to reach out to as a monitor?
So please.
I did a relapse plan with the short course program here with Melissa, and largely the overall relapse prevention portion of it is that everybody in my family knows what I'm dealing with. They'll know exactly what my conditions are. I can go to any one of them if I feel that I'm struggling, that I need help, and they'll make sure I get the help. And then I also have I was dealing with the probation officer before, so I'm hopeful that whichever probation officer I end up with, I'll be able to go to them if I need help as well.
Yeah, very good. I got from reading the summary from your treatment at the facility, it appears that you, although you were kind of reserved, as they said, you did gain some valuable insight into what your behaviors are that led you into viewing the pornography. Do you feel that's true?
Yes. You know, in the group with Melissa, you know, that she was talking about a lot of the emotional reasons, and the biggest emotional factor that seemed to be for me personally was a feeling of lack of control in my own life, and
Okay. And I'm going to say that you and Melissa worked on a plan for how to manage your emotions a little bit more closely in the community.
So I hadn't done the treatment with Melissa, obviously, until I got here. But like I said, between the search warrant and the sentencing, I was in the community for roughly 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd already developed an understanding of how to prevent myself from relapsing, what I needed to do in my life to keep myself away from going back there.
Mr. Bowman, I did read your pretrial treatment. Seems like you were very committed to that. And like I mentioned earlier, the summary from your treatment at the facility indicates that, you know, for the time that you were in, you were committed and you seem to have benefited from it. So I wish you well. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Palmieri. Ms. Chance?
Yeah, so, Mr. Bowman, would you say that during the 3 years that you were in the community prior to your incarceration, when you were meeting with Bill Hobson, that helped you to have a better understanding when you participated in the short-term sex offender program?
I think it helped my understanding of what we were looking for in that program, and it definitely helped me be willing to delve into what was going on with me, and rather than just being stuck at being unwilling to admit that what I had been doing was so terrible.
I think she referred to it as you were in the action stage, right? Action stage of change. You know, because you took full responsibility for the offense and you did show some remorse, right? And I know that a couple of the things that you worked on with her, I thought she did a very good assessment of where you are today. You seem like very reluctant to share, but I believe you have acquired a very good knowledge of what was going on with you and where you are today. And she described it, and I'm not going to go through it because it's like 2 pages, but the final analysis that you have certainly, you know, identify the age group that you are actually sexually attracted to, and you were able to work through that and express your thoughts and feelings about that. And then you were asked to identify a high-risk situation for you when you go back in the community. And you said that it was being able to access the internet. And so I believe you're going back home to your parents,
That is the plan, yes.
and they're aware that they have to have some restriction on their access to the house internet.
Yes, they'll keep me on the straight and narrow. If it comes down to it, they won't have internet in the house if that's what they have to do.
I just need to say, Ms. Bowman, you're 28 years old, look a lot younger. But just from what I've read about the treatment that you've done prior to your incarceration and your 12-week short-term sex offender program, that you have done well in the program and that you have a good treatment plan for when you go home to follow through with all the areas that you have identified. And you have the support of your family. Okay, so I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Ms. Chance. I think that Mr. Bowman is an appropriate candidate for discretionary parole. I think that he would benefit from the higher level of supervision prior to his starting that 10 years of probation. Hopefully that he can complete it successfully. Of course, he would have a restriction on pornography and be stipulated to participate in problem sexual behavior treatment in the community, and they would be monitoring his electronics, and he would know
internet.
and he would not be able to have contact with minors without the full officer's permission. I heard the officer say his eligibility date was May. Was it May 1st? May 2nd, which means his date would be today. Are there any objections to that or
No.
those conditions? Any additional?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yep, me too. With regard to Hunter Bowman, 443543, I move that he be granted discretionary parole on or after today's date, June 10th, 2024, with the following conditions. In addition to the standard parole conditions, he is to have no contact with minors without the parole officer's permission. He is to be, his electronic devices are to be monitored with enhanced monitoring. Also, he has a restriction on pornography, and he will participate in problem sexual behavior treatment in the community. Did I say everything, ladies?
Yeah, you did.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
All in favor? All right. Mr. Bowman, congratulations, sir. You've been voted to parole. You'll receive this in writing. We wish you the best.
Thank you very much.
Now concludes the hearing for Hunter Bowman, inmate number 443543.
I think what bothers me most about this interview is the complete lack of understanding of the issue that they are dealing with. It's as if they have zero understanding. They are talking to him as if he is someone who has control over what he's attracted to. In the conversation, they said, you know, we saw that you have in your therapy that you were using this, you were looking at CP to meet your emotional needs. So what are you going to do to move forward? You know, well, I know you're going through a difficult time in your life, and that's why you are doing this. And it's like, no, he's doing it because he's attracted to children. He will always be attracted to children. It's how he's wired. You can't fix it. Which makes it even more insane that they have a 10-year, just 10 years, where he has to be on the registry. This is a lifelong disease. he is never going to not be attracted to children. My understanding, from what I've seen, from the studies that I've seen. I don't know why this parole board doesn't have access to those studies. You would think in Connecticut, with all their brilliant PhDs in academia, that they would know something that has been known for years. But instead, they perceive it as just like something that he did as a mistake, or something that could be easily fixed by some programs, by therapy. I thought maybe he actually understood his problem more than they did, and they just weren't getting at it. You know, to his credit, I think he seems to understand that he does like children. I think. He's a moderate range. How do you release anyone who's a moderate range, who's not a low risk? Not that the risk score makes any difference. And then, you know what, I really, really pissed me off. And this is, we see this so often with this Connecticut parole board, but it was Miss Page, who asks him a question and then gives him the answer that she needs. So what are you going to do to make sure that you don't do this again? And don't tell me that you're going to stay inside the house all day. And it's like, I mean, this is a parole hearing. That's inappropriate. You can't give the answer you don't want to hear. You need to wait for him to give the answer. And he still didn't give. He's just like, I don't know. What did he say? I'm not going to go. I don't know. It was basically the same answer. You can't do anything. This is what he's into. It's very simple. If it's like if I woke up in a George Orwell book like 1984, and it was in this, and all of a sudden they're like, Mandoo, you can't look at women. You're gonna go to the park, and there's a female there, and an adult female. Just imagine I was single or whatever. You can't talk to them. You have to go and turn away and walk away. If you're in a supermarket and there's a woman there, you got to go out, wait till they leave. But in 10 years, don't worry, in 10 years, no one's going to be supervising you anymore. You can do whatever you want on your phone. You don't need to register. All those rules are gone. But for that 10-year period, you can't do it. And I'd be like, I would know that I have to tell them what they want to hear for me to get released. So I'd have to tell them, yes, what I did was wrong. I would need to say all the right things, but it wouldn't change how my mind's wired. It wouldn't change that if I had an opportunity, that I knew that if I wouldn't get caught and I had the opportunity, that I wouldn't jump in. And it certainly wouldn't change that after the 10 years is up, I'm going to go party. So if you think of it just in that basic mythology, if you want to call it that, or that basic just way of thinking, tell me then tell me how any of it makes sense. And I'm not a PhD. I didn't graduate Harvard or Yale. And I think that most of us can see things this way. But not the ones in power making the decisions who have to protect our children. And that's just nuts. Anyways, that's my 2 cents. Or as Richard says, $29.80 with inflation. With that, I'll let you go.